Park City, Utah is a town of a dozen upscale art galleries. The Kimball Art Center is in the middle of the art community. The Kimball brings together new creativity through the nation's new artists. 6 became relevant 2010. They would have 8 days to make new pieces. One was an abstract that went for thousands of dollars. This is unusual for an unknown artist in today's economy.
The idea was that we would send out an invitation throughout the United States to art academies and have the students send us a 2-minute video, some images of their work, and a reason why their work was relevant.
Why am I relevant? I am definitely a work in progress. I have a condition widely known as Asperger Syndrome, and this gives me a unique interpretation of my various artistic subjects, and it has also made communication with others an enormous challenge.
Even more unusual, the previously unknown artist, who became one of the show's stars, lived within the shadows of the creative art town, outside of formal art training and outside of Park City schools. This is a story of passion, joy, and a kind man, an artist named Michael.
I'm 25 years old, and I have lived in Park City since I was about 3 years old.
I think every mother wants to see their child happy and find their place in the world where they're comfortable, with who they are. You know, nobody's asking them to change, but to have the world fit to Michael rather than the other way around.
He looks at things from a different perspective.
This is a photo of a piece that I sold at the Kimball for their pinup show. Now basically it was a real challenge to avoid basically having the whole thing here just become black, and it was also kind of a real leap for me to leave this big white space here.
It is a story of a mother's love for her child and how he sees the world.
From his love affair with vacuum cleaners, before he could even walk, he was always fascinated with the large Hoover stand-up vacuum cleaners, and like I said, before he could walk, he would hang on to them and try to push them, and he loved to turn them on and off and look at all their parts.
It is a curiosity that became an art, unlike any art the community had seen. Because Michael saw what we didn't see, even in the neighborhood landscape truck.
I think his next big love affair was seeing Lorenzo, the landscaper's gardening truck with all the rakes and hose and the power tools, the leaf blower and everything. And that's when I think Mike's first artistic seeds started, or I should have known then, but I didn't realize it because he tried to imitate Lorenzo's gardening truck. He had one of those little cozy coupe plastic cars and a bunch of plastic rakes and shovels, and he would try to balance them in very interesting ways on this roof of his little car.
I only went to high school for about 4 months.
Michael had gone through about 2nd grade in the public schools, and there were some issues, you know, that we didn't really understand at the time, and the school solution was special education. And we knew Mike, you know, wouldn't be happy there. That it was a good thing for some kids, but Mike didn't really need special education. He needed something that nobody really knew how to give him. So I decided to teach him at home because he could draw more and read more and learn about things that were really interesting to him.
Later, I obtained my GED, and I've started taking classes in Russian literature and art at the University of Utah. Sharing my art with people has opened up new ways of communicating and has made things easier. The piece I did for Relevant, Oscillator, Bistable and Not an Oscillator, I was thinking a bit about Yevgeny Zamyatin's famous essay on revolution, entropy, and other matters, which he basically posits that it's sort of both in human affairs. I mean, basically you have revolution, which is hot and violent, but then it becomes entropic, and then you need revolution to continue, and they kind of exist in kind of a homeostasis, sort of.
he sees numbers in paint.
Basically, the binary system is a positional system. I mean, meaning that there's typically a set number of symbols, and they're either a 1 or a 0. So you have, say, a 1, and then go to 2, then 4, then 8, then 8. So it's kind of arranged like this: 0, 0, 0, 0. So let's say this is 1, 2, 4, 8, and so on. So basically, let's say that this is, we've got 0, 0, 0, that's 0, then we go 1, 0, 0, 0, and that's 1. Now that one shuts off, we go to 0, 1, 0, 0, and that's 2. 1, 1, 0, 0, that's 2 plus 1, which equals 3. Well, it's the way that I set it up with the little squares. I mean, each one is a particular, has a particular pattern in it. So I just kind of decided to have two different types of patterns and kind of a counterpoint. And depending on how you looked at it, it was either counting up or counting down. I wanted to have one be more organized than the other. So I had the red, and then I had the gray with the oil markers as kind of a different pattern. And I noticed that basically once you got to the middle of it, it was a reverse mirror image. So all the ones at the top or bottom became the zeros at the other end. I seem to like patterns. I mean, it just kind of stuff that's a bit smaller scale. I mean, like this. I mean, in some cases, I mean, I'll do a couple of big lines and then just kind of start putting them into these more repetitive strokes, kind of filling them in. I mean, there is kind of a tendency to fill the whole canvas up with one color in some cases, especially with painting. That was always a problem. I'd always end up just seeing an interesting color and just wanting it to be the same.
Art to Michael is
Sort of an obsession, but it's a nice one. I mean, it's given me something to do, something to work for, something to be passionate about. I describe it as I think people would call it abstract. Different kinds of abstract. I mean, it is interesting to consider some of that stuff. I mean, just to kind of see how different pure line forms fit together.
One of the things that I noticed when I first met Michael and we sat down, and he had a notebook that he takes notes in, and it had the most beautiful cover on it. And I think we all commented like, what is that? Because it was a story. He had words and he had little paths, and there was a lot going on just the front of his notebook. So it was fascinating to see that and see that art in his world is everywhere. It's not just when he's in the studio. It's ingrained in him, and it's just part of what he does.
I make things possibly for different reasons than some artists. Sometimes I don't know exactly what or why I am creating a particular piece, because I become fascinated with some small element of the piece, such as repetitive lines or certain patterns, and that's the part that interests me.
When Michael started a piece, it was hard for him to stop.
When I was taking a painting class, I typically work for about 24 hours straight.
Mike is a definite night owl. I would say his energy kicks in about 12:05 in the morning. I think a lot of artists work best in the middle of the night for some reason. And it's amazing what they can do after the rest of us are in bed.
This is my self-portrait. This is something I did for the painting class, and I finally had a real hard time just doing it any other way. So what I did, because I was very interested in some of the old mechanical television and manual wire photo and analog wire photo transmission. So what I did was I kind of divided it up into little sections, little vertical strips, and you can kind of see them there. And then I just kind of took a picture of myself and kind of messed around with it a little bit in Photoshop just to kind of get the lights and darks.
Well, I think looking back, I realized that it was when he was so taken by things, by objects. He was like stricken by them almost. They meant something to him, whereas the rest of us would walk in and see, Lorenzo's gardening truck and not think anything of it, or the vacuum cleaner, but those objects caught his eye. And from then on, he was trying to reorder his world based on the things that were in his environment. So the things that looked like a trashy room to a mom, this was important because they were his drawings and they were in good places for him, even though they were all over the floor. And there were ways that he saw things.
Michael delighted in seeing patterns in technology.
This one here, I actually got interested into punch cards. I actually had a lot of been interested in older, possibly obsolete technology for a while now, and it's really interesting. I was always interested in stuff like this. I mean, the specifications on older computers and electronics, things like that. And I just got some punch cards, and I just decided to start collaging them together. I also did some interconnections with the different pieces. People are always asking me what inspired me to draw a particular thing or what I am calling a particular work of art.
Michael says his grandmother recognized his artistic talent and encouraged him.
He was just doodling with his Sharpie pen, these little tiny drawings, and I said, "Mike, that's wonderful." And he insisted that they were just doodles. And I said, "No, I can see them framed. I've never seen anybody do art like this."
I had not seen work like Michael's before, and there was a detail and a precision in it that spoke to me. And we're looking for artists that are completely unique in their expression.
There's a brilliance how Michael views the world.
For instance, this one here, this was just a couple of pages of notes that I did, little quotes and stuff, and reflections on the novel Make Room, which is sort of a pastiche of which was kind of given a Blade Runner style pastiche in the film Soylent Green. I think that stuff like this, where it looks like it could be writing but it isn't, is technically called pseudography, or something that sort of looks like writing but it doesn't have any inherent meaning. It's just these little symbols. And also, I was also thinking, reading this famous short story called Tlon Cubar Orbis Tellitis. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that properly. It's a very interesting idea. Basically, it involves the intentional creation of an alternate world.
When we launched Relevant 2010, we were dreaming about who might show up. When you create a program and you believe in it, but it's not real until the characters arrive. And then we put the application process online and put it out into the universe. And Michael was one of the first applicants that we saw online that came through, and he struck us immediately with his really precise and interesting work, and it jumped out immediately. And the theme was opening doors, and when he talked about why Relevant would be useful to him as an artist and why he would be interested in the program and how it would open doors for him, it kind of pulled on our heartstrings. Already his artwork spoke to us, and then he himself.
I am becoming more and more interested in what others think of my art, because through art I am learning to successfully communicate with people. It's opening doors.
Michael saw what we didn't, a glimpse, a reflection of another dimension. When viewed from Michael's eyes, his art conveys with us another language of consciousness that touches the spirit of the observer.